Coraline Jones always dreamed of finding a better world. A world more exciting than this. But never did she imagine that she'd discover it in her own home. A parallel place.
We've been waiting for you, Coraline.
Where parents are always fun.
I love your garden! Can't believe you did this!
And everything is so good.
What's shaking, baby?
It just can't be real.
Mom?
You're just in time for supper, dear.
You're not my mother. My mother doesn't have...
Buttons? Do you like them? I'm your other mother, silly.
You probably think this world is a dream come true.
My name!
But you're wrong.
You do like it here, don't you, Coraline? You could stay here forever. There's one tiny little thing we need to do. Black is traditional.
She's got this whole world where everything's better, but it's all a trap.
You may come out when you've learned to be a loving daughter.
From Henry Selick, the director of The Nightmare Before Christmas, comes a world of extraordinary imagination. Spooky secrets.
Who are you?
You're in terrible danger, girl.
And daring discoveries.
I still have to find my parents. To set them free?
This year, when adventure comes knocking,
Choo-choo.
there are some doors that should never be opened. Coraline, written for the screen and directed by Henry Selick, presented in Real D 3D.
Hello everybody, and good evening, and welcome to another episode of Everything Horror. I am your host, Tessa Baker, and I'm joined by my fiance,
Paul Dolsky.
And tonight we are talking about the dark fantasy horror Coraline, which was done in February of 2009, and we're here tonight to talk about the 10th anniversary of it.
That's right.
Here's a brief synopsis of the film itself. While exploring her new home, a girl named Coraline discovers a secret door behind which lies an alternate world that closely mirrors her own, but in many ways is better. She rejoices in her discovery until the other mother and the rest of her parallel family try to keep her there forever. Coraline must use all of her resources and bravery to make it back to her family and life. So, babe, what did you think of Coraline when I first showed it to you?
That it reminds me of like a Tim Burton movie, even though it's not. And that humor in it is very interesting. Like with Coraline, with the whole, why were you born? Because of her friend's name.
Yeah, Wybie.
Yeah, Wybie.
Yeah.
Because Wybie sounds like, why were you born, as she put it, or something like that. So, yeah.
Yeah, because his grandmother, when she calls for him, she says, why born?
Yeah.
So that's where Coraline comes up with, why were you born, from why born. So, the first time I ever saw Coraline, I actually saw it in 3D. And that was actually very interesting to see this film in 3D. My DVD itself also has 2D and 3D, and it came with 3D glasses too. So there were certain parts of the film that you could see, like, that popped really well with the 3D aspect, and it was usually parts with the other mother, played by Teri Hatcher, when it was more towards the end of the film, with Coraline trying to get away from her and get back home, and the whole room turned into like this giant spider web, and then Coraline gets pulled down into the spider web, and then you got the other mother, aka Beldam, jumping down into the web trying to pounce on Coraline, and you really see her pop out of the screen, and that aspect. There's certain other parts of the film as well that pop more than others, like the garden scene with the other father taking Coraline up in the machine to hover over the garden.
Yep.
That part pops. The ghost children, their hands when they're trying to help Coraline close the door, that popped. The other mother, aka Beldam's hand, chasing after Coraline, trying to drag her back to the house, that part pops. There's certain parts of the film that pop more than others. I overall enjoyed the film. I thought it was great, and like Paul was saying, and I agree with him, it definitely has a Tim Burton-esque feel to it. Even though it technically was not directed by Tim Burton, it was directed by Henry Selick. But still, it feels like a Tim Burton movie because of the atmosphere and the humor and the graphics of the film itself, the puppeteering and things like that. Let's talk about the cast, actually. Dakota Fanning was played by Coraline Jones. For those of you that have seen, like, Dakota Fanning in other movies, she's played in War of the Worlds, Man on Fire, I Am Sam, Uptown Girl, so on and so forth. The other mother, played by Teri Hatcher. Some of you have probably seen her in movies like Lois and Clark, and TV shows like Supergirl and 007, Tomorrow Never Dies, Tango and Cash,
Desperate Housewives,
MacGyver. And then you've got Keith David, who plays the cat in the movie, and the cat doesn't actually have a name. And Keith David was in movies like The Thing, The Princess and the Frog, They Live, Platoon, There's Something About Mary, etc. So that's some of the cast that they actually have in the movie, which I thought was actually kind of interesting. And I think overall they chose a good cast to voice over the characters of the movie.
Who played the father?
Who played the father? The other father was played by John Hodgman. He was also in Baby Mama, Bored to Death, Movie 43, The Lying Invention, The Daily Show, Perfect Pitch 2, Learning to Drive, some other stuff that I haven't heard of, really. That's just some of the cast that was in this film. But I think overall they chose good actors to voice over their characters. What did you think?
I'm only familiar with a couple of these characters, but otherwise, or actors I should say. And otherwise, I think it fit the atmosphere of the film to help bring the characters come to life. So I say good job everybody for helping the film out.
And the use of humor in the film was pretty good.
Yeah, we already
we touched on that with talking about Wyborn, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, then there was another weird one that I actually just forgot now. But yeah, there was another one that was just like, really?
Oh, yeah, Wyborn with Coraline with the like King Slug pictures and stuff. Yeah. That was kind of cute and funny. I liked the cat's sense of humor and Coraline's sarcasm and how they like played off of each other.
The wuss push.
Yeah, the wuss puss and stuff like that. And when the cat was talking to Coraline in the parallel world, like actually talking to her.
Yeah, he's like, oh, I thought I was a wuss puss or something like that.
I'm just a big fat wuss puss. So how about we talk about the elements of horror in this film, babe? We've got the ghost kids, which was interesting how that was brought into the mix. The ghost kids were showed in the parallel world when Coraline was thrown into like this mirror prison after she pissed off the other mother, essentially, and made her very mad. And told her that the other mother was not her mother and blah blah blah. So she got thrown into the mirror world as punishment, and there she met the ghost kids of the previous children that were there before her that were tricked by the other mother, and talked about how they came to be stuck there and
everything else of how they were trapped.
Yeah, how they were trapped there. And I thought that was actually kind of dark for the film, but then again, this isn't a kids movie anyways.
And why is it not a kid movie?
Because of the fact that there's death in the movie.
Where?
The ghost children, they talk about how the Beldam, aka the other mother, sewed buttons in their eyes, and she essentially took their souls and ate up their lives. And the other mother, aka Beldam, she's like this spider creature that eats everything. Like, she eats things. She eats souls, she eats bugs, she's essentially a predator. So, also, other elements of horror in the film are the button eyes, and the reason why this is considered an element of horror is because the other mother tries to get Coraline to stay with her, and she says, well, there's something you have to do first, and it's essentially, you have to let me sew buttons into your eyeball sockets with a needle and thread. So I thought that was kind of
dark,
yes.
Yeah.
Because she wants to sew buttons into her eyeballs, so yeah, that's an element of horror. The other mother is considered an element of horror as well, because her transformation throughout the movie. At first, she starts out as like this mirror image of Coraline's mother. The only difference is that she has buttons for eyes.
And she's very nice.
And she's very, very nice, and she cooks.
Yes.
So,
and the father is kind of played into it as well, where he's more of a drunk in reality versus in the parallel universe, he's more of a
like upbeat
guy who
likes to do all sorts of things, like
play the piano, even though it's not him,
and gardening and stuff like that. But the reason why the other mother and the other father are considered elements of horror in this movie is the breakdown of their characters throughout the film. So, seemingly normal when Coraline first meets them, other than they both have buttons for eyes and they have some other differences from their human counterparts in Coraline's world. Like Paul was saying, the other mother was very nice. The father obviously likes to play piano and stuff like that. Stuff that the father in the other world doesn't like to do. The father in the other world, Coraline's real father, actually is a writer and works all the time. He's a workaholic.
And shows up drunk at his job.
Yeah. The reason why they're considered elements of horror is the other mother reveals herself. She transforms throughout the film, and she slowly starts to turn into this spider creature. And the other father, his digression is he turns into like this pumpkin creature. This guy with essentially a human head and a pumpkin body.
What, is a pumpkin or a squash?
Pumpkin or... It's like, I don't know, it's hard to tell. It's like a mix between the two. It was like some kind of pumpkin squash creature.
I think she said what he was. But he was like the other mother...
Don't squash, the garden need tending to, pumpkin or something like that.
Something like that. I don't know.
Anyways, so the other parents are considered elements of horror in this movie. The parallel universe itself is considered an element of horror, considering the fact of how it changes as time goes on, and when Coraline starts to rebel against it, it changes against her. For example, the parallel characters of Miss Spink and Forcible and their dogs. Again, when Coraline first meets them, they're seemingly normal, except for button eyes and stuff like that. But the horror aspect of them is when Coraline goes to collect one of the children's eyes, which are actually referred to as objects in this parallel universe. Like, the boy's eyeball is like a driver shaft for a stick shift on a gardening machine, and one of the ghost girl's eyeballs is a pearl ring, which Miss Spink and Forcible have, and when Coraline goes to claim it, she reaches into like this taffy wrapper of Spink and Forcible, like bound together like taffy, and she has to like unbind their hands and try to take the ring, and Miss Spink and Forcible are like this twisted, like morphed taffy monster, and their dogs are vampire bat dogs.
When in reality they're like angels.
Yeah, when in reality, in the real world, they're considered angels by the normal Spink and Forcible. Mr. Bobinski, same thing. Buttons for eyes when you first meet him, looks seemingly normal aside from that. And then as the movie goes on, the more it gets towards the end, Mr. Bobinski morphs and he ends up turning into his
true form, we'll say.
His true form, for lack of better wording, which is his
parallel universe.
No, he becomes the rats.
Right.
He becomes the rats that he trains, which in reality, the real Mr. B is training jumping mice to do like this circus show type of deal. So the parallel universe Mr. B is his whole body is made up of all these rats that he's training, and
or the jumping mice as the real world Mr. B would call them.
Yes, and they also have their head mouse or head rat or whatever actually has the third ghost child's eye, which is a red small bouncy ball with like a gold star on it. So as we mentioned, the lost children's eyes, the whole way that plays into it is when Coraline discovers that her parents are missing and that the other mother has taken them because she had escaped back to her home looking for her family, and her family wasn't there, and she found out that the other mother had taken her parents, and she was using them as a way to kind of bait Coraline to come back to the parallel world so that she could keep her. So she goes back to the parallel world or parallel universe to face off with the other mother to get back her parents. And she has to play a game with the other mother. And essentially what she has to do is not only does she have to find the 3 ghost children's eyes in those objects that I previously mentioned, she also has to find her parents. And the beldam only gives her a hint for where to find the ghost children's eyes. In each of 3 wonders I have made for you, a ghost eye is hidden in plain sight. She has to play the game with the other mother, and if she wins, she gets her family, and she gets to go home. If she loses, she has to stay behind and let the beldam sew buttons into her eyes. So I thought that was pretty cool how they did that, how Coraline's like last battle with her essentially is to play a game with her. Kind of like with Saw, do you want to play a game?
I'm sorry, what?
I was just joking around, like I made like a Saw reference, like, do you want to play a game?
There you go, that's better.
So, what did you think of the characters in the parallel universe versus their reality characters?
Well, I guess it would be like what anybody would be really wanting in real life, I guess, for those that kind of have that really, I don't want to say nasty family, but I'll say like more or less like, you know, the torn apart family per se in reality versus the parallel universe characters, which is all nice and go-lucky, where it'd make you want to stay, as the other mother wanted her to. So besides that, you knew something was up when the button-eyed Wybie was like sad, and then the other mother was trying to tell him like, smile, keep a smile. So that's when you kind of knew like, uh-oh. And then later on, you see the other dad where he's sitting in the piano room, but this time
he's mopey.
He's mopey because he can't really talk without Mother being around. So yeah,
he pulls energy from her too.
Yes.
Yeah, she's like a power outlet, and he said something to the effect of, "All will be well once Mother is rested." And he said something else to Coraline like,
"Can't talk when Mother's not around."
Well, not just that, but Coraline mentions Wybie. Well, I'll just get the other Wyborn's help, and he's just like, "No use." Wybie pulled a long face, and Mother didn't like it.
Oh, yeah.
So she had essentially pinned up Wybie's face to make him smile because he wasn't smiling enough for her. So he had to pin his face in place to hold a smile. Which how Coraline ended up getting out of the mirror ghost prison area was the other Wybie pulled her out.
And what else did the other Mother do to Wybie in the universe?
Well, after, besides making him smile, she took away his voice. He didn't have a voice in the parallel world. He was a mute. And when Wybie helped Coraline escape back to her universe before she had to come back and face off with Mother, when she did come back to face off with Mother, and she was heading to Mr. Bobinski to face off with him to get the ghost child's eye from there, which was the third eye, Wybie, or I should say what was left of the other Wybie, was hanging like a flag out on Bobinski's porch. So that's dark in itself.
Correct.
Our thoughts on the film, first time versus 10 years later. My thoughts pretty much haven't changed from the first time that I've seen it versus like now, 10 years down the road. I still love it as much as I watched it the first time. I still enjoy it. It's actually one of my favorite movies that has like a Tim Burton feel to it. That's part of my collection. So it's one of those movies where I probably wouldn't get sick of it. I just enjoy all the elements and the aspects of it. How about you, babe?
For first time seeing it versus now, I guess I can't really say too much because I didn't see it when it first came out. So I guess within almost a 3-year span, or 2.5 or whatever it was. For first time, yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it. Like I said, it reminded me of almost like a Tim Burton film, just by the way of the atmosphere, the dark humor, and everything else. It was right up a movie that something Tim Burton would pull out, I think, and that's what I enjoy. And for being 2.5 years, I guess, of seeing this again, or whatever, that I can't really say 10 years, because like I said, I didn't see it when it first came out. I still enjoy it. It still reminds me of, like, something, like I said, Tim Burton did.
So, let's talk about the toys for Coraline. I actually have 3 of the, I think there's 3 of the 5 or 6 characters for Funko Pop for it, actually. And I have, the other Mother. I have Coraline with the cat. I have the Coraline doll. But there's also an exclusive Coraline figure where she's wearing her hat from the movie.
With the raincoat.
And then there's also Mr. Bobinski. And then there's just the regular plain Coraline with the raincoat with no hat. So I have 3 of the 6 characters.
Right. Oh, looks like Mr. B even comes with a little jumping mouse.
Yeah, Mr. B comes with a
jumping mouse.
One of his little mouses from the show.
Yeah, it looks like the leader.
Yeah, I think so, because it has the little hat. Yeah. So there's that. There's the 6 Funko Pop figures, which they actually recently came out at the end of 2018. There's also NECA figures for Coraline as well. I believe there's a Coraline figure itself. I'm looking to see what else there is. There's
the doll.
There's the other mother. There's a NECA figure of Coraline with the doll, and then YB with the cat. And there's actually a Coraline, like, size...
That's actually coming out, too.
Yeah.
What you're looking at right now.
The NECA figure, yeah, that's up for pre-order, and it ships in February. And that runs about $28.99. I think my Funko Pops ran what, like... $6 something a piece, I think.
Or $10.
Or
I think you did pre-order that.
Between 6 to 12.
Yeah.
There's also a NECA Coraline figure with Coraline in her rain jacket and her rain boots. There's actually a NECA Coraline doll prop replica. It's like 10 inches. There's actually some other stuff too, like there's some merchandise like t-shirts and other various things that were made into toys from the movie.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was pretty cool too. And there's also books for it as well, which I'm gonna let Paul talk about that a little bit.
Well, there's nothing really too much to discuss about it except for that it looks like the book came out before the movie from what we were seeing, because it looks like it came out sometime in 2008 while the movie came out in 2009.
It was this one, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the one by Neil Gaiman.
Yes.
Yeah. So what Paul and I were thinking was that maybe the book came out before the actual movie, and they maybe tried to base the movie off of the book.
I'm assuming that's what it is, because if we look at that other picture of Coraline for the hardcover, it's completely different.
Yeah, it's a completely different cover.
And then if we look at the mass market one, it's still the same one, but...
If you switch it to paperback, it's the one from, like, the movie.
Yeah, and then what about the library binding one? Okay, that still shows, like, the same...
Yeah, so... There's different artworks for different covers. Between the soft cover and the hard.
It's just...
Images.
Not even that. It's just Coraline. Just words. I can't show you the image because I'm not finding it.
Yeah, you guys can't really see what we're looking at, but like Coraline at the end of the movie, and like Coraline how it's written on my Funko Pop boxes over there and stuff like that. It's like this, it's like C, and then the O is like a button, and then R-A, and then the L is the cat, and then I-N-E.
Which you pointed something out about the cat.
Well, at the end of the film, the cat is seen sitting on, like, perched up on the Pink Palace sign for the apartment building, and he ends up getting up and walking into like the post of it and like disappearing. So what I had said to Paul for that, and what I've read is that in folklore and
cat magic
and stuff like that, that cats are considered to be like travelers or messengers, and they can travel to like different dimensions, like spiritual plane and things like that. So what I was thinking is like maybe like it was like the cat was going to like a parallel world or like a different plane.
Yeah, and then as far as books goes, I think that's really about it. The only thing that I will say is there is a Coraline soundtrack, But good luck trying to find a copy since it came out around the same time as the movie, and without having to buy it overseas, you're almost looking at over $100 for this thing for the original soundtrack. But
which is crazy.
Yeah, but Coraline did come out on vinyl too, so you might have a better chance, I guess, getting it on vinyl.
Well, in that case, I'd probably get it on vinyl.
I know Paranorman did, but that's another story.
Or
episode.
So, like, the Google search is saying that there is a Coraline graphic novel. And then there's, like, a chapter book by and they're both by Neil Gaiman. Yeah. So, there are a couple of books for you Coraline likers. There's a lot of toys for Coraline, like Funko Pops and NECA and stuff like we discussed before. So yeah, I don't know if there's anything else that we have to add. Is there anything that you can think of, or do you think that we pretty much covered it?
I think we pretty much covered it, and that for 10 years, it's still pretty good.
Yep, I agree. 10 years later, it's still good. Bravo. So, that concludes our little short podcast episode for the 10th anniversary for Coraline. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the listen. I was your hostess tonight, Tessa Baker, and I was joined by my fiance,
Podolski.
And we are from Everything Horror Podcast. And as always, as we like to say, stay scary.